Initially, when you start to become more aware of yourself, it's easy to kind of feel stuck on whether to push or pull. Um, Making choices, whether you should, you know, do something or just not do it, or, sometimes when you come into the knowledge of the truth of yourself, it's hard to get your footing because you're so used to being mind driven, which is all about doing and controlling and trying to be ahead of every situation, to just letting go to your heart space, which is intuitive nature. So the answer or the questions that will come up is whether I push or pull, do I do or don't do. What I normally do to kind of, well, really, I've gotten to the point where I don't even have to make a decision. I just allow the decision to make for myself, because oftentimes, and just even today, my grandson, they had a uh, Mother's Day program at the school, during the time I normally work, but on Fridays I try not to schedule any visits on Friday, because I know sometimes there's appointments, doctor's appointments, things that I need to do business wise and others, and just sometimes just having some me time. I like to keep that day open. So when I saw it initially, I was thinking, oh, I don't want to be held up for an hour, which is only an hour. And the mind, it went into more of the mind space, was like, no, I don't think I want to do that. you know and sometimes it happens like that, where your mind will make judgments on the situation, and but intuitively you tend to go with your intuitive nature, because you tend to, if you let go of the mind, then you really don't have to make a choice. See, in my mind, I thought, no, I'm not going. But then when I got home, I felt that I needed, it was something that should be done, because I knew it would make him happy. And then I ran it by my husband. He said, yeah, you definitely need to get up there and make sure he's going to enjoy seeing you. So I thought about that, Instead of the mind, there was a selfishness of, oh, that's just going to waste time. I don't want to be around these children, and I don't really want to eat waffles and whatever it is that they had for. But then I thought, you know what? And I decided to go, and when I got there, his face just lit up, because it looked like he had a tear in his eye, as if, if I didn't go, it would have made him sad. And so, or either it was because when he saw me, it was just so full with joy. And it was more of an intuitive thing. Even though my mind said, no, I'm not going, intuitively just went with the flow. So whether the push or pull, you don't even really have to make decisions. You don't have to make them. Anything that your mind can come up with is usually, sometimes you go with whatever the thought is, because sometimes it's driven by the heart. But there's often times that I said I was or wasn't going to do something, and then actuality came and it never happened. Whatever was conveyed in the mind. The heart knew what it needed to do, or what was, just kind of went with the flow. A lot of times you don't need to even make a decision. You don't have to have stress about it. Now, if there is something, whether you want to sign something off or things like that, then yeah, you may, think of those things or whatnot. But no, you just really, basically, anytime you go with that intuitive, it's just the knowing. It just happens in the moment. And even up until the moment, sometimes I don't have a decision. But I just find myself doing things. Or, if I say, oh, well, am I going to do this or whatever this weekend, half the time I've done a whole nother thing. Like I gave up on purchasing a refrigerator, and before the weekend was over, I had bought one. You know, things of that things of that nature. It just all seems to flow. And it all seems to be in sync with when it needs to happen. The refrigerator was over half price off. It was on clearance. It's a $3,000 refrigerator, okay, for $1,300. It was like it was just sitting there, and it ended up being the only one. He said there were no more, and I said, well, there's one on the display. We'll take that one, you know. And so that's how things generally just happens. It just happens. It's no mind thing, and initially your mind is going to always try to grab it because it's used to doing that. I mean, we were so mind driven when we're caught up in the ego, and this mind body person is used to trying to control everything. But you'll find that when you just let go and kind of let the day unfold, things will happen when they need to happen, without the added stress or suffering or tension or emotions behind it. Everything just sinks. So you don't need to push or pull. You don't really even need to make a decision about anything, because what needs to happen will happen, or what should happen, or is intended to happen. It will just flow. Not to say that if I'm going to the grocery store, I don't make a list, you know, because I know that once I get in there, I may leave off something. Yeah, okay, list it. I mean, things that, you know, like that, or a flight. Yeah, you may need to write down the numbers of the flight, or things of that nature. It needs to be taken care of that way. But yeah, most decisions about where to go, what you should do, usually comes up in the moment, and it's just more beautiful. It's more peaceful. It's less resistance when you try to control the day, or the mind overtakes it. And, why I should have did. It's always I should have. You know, when dealing with the mind, it seems like it complicates matters more, and then causes unneeded tension, because it it kind of moves you in the space of imagination, and then it's always a war between I don't know, suggestions, more to speak. Yeah. So it's always a war with, I should have did this, or I should have did that first, or I need to do this, or always living in the future or in the past, you know, living for the next. And just to, when you let go of all that, you find that everything seems to flow in a much more magical and beautiful way. I mean, I look up some weekends and I'm like, how did I get all of that done? And it was no stress. I mean, I didn't think about any of it. It just, when one thing was done, I just started something else. And that was done. Then I thought, well, I got time to do this. Before you know it, I had a full day of a lot of things getting taken care of, you know, that I didn't even think I was going to do. I had nothing in the plans. And generally, that's how I roll. I don't plan anything. I don't, you know, it just feels so good not to have plans, but when still things get done. I mean, and sometimes it's a lot, you know, there's a lot of things that get done. I mean, and it's just beautiful when there's no stress or there's no suffering behind the doing. And that's the difference between being mind driven, that push or pull, or being driven through your intuitive nature, where everything just goes with the flow. And no decisions really have to be made. You're making decisionless decisions. And it's just a beautiful thing. Anyway, that's what came up. And I know I've kind of been MIA a little bit. Not really. You know, I just feel like when things come up sometimes, I am doing a lot of things. Like last week, I thought, well, let me redo my hair. And sometimes that takes all day. And I don't get back in front of the camera, but I know that there's enough here. I mean, just really sitting with yourself is just the beautiful thing, to unveil all of that conditioning and let that love just to flow in, because sometimes you just need quiet. Sometimes it's good to get these just pointers. That's all I'm doing, is just pointing you to yourself, to your true nature, and that's inside of that, not really inside or outside, that is all of us. And so whatever the universe has for tools, you can use the tools. And then sometimes it's time just to let go of the tools and just experience. Not an experience, it's not an experience, but just to sit with yourself. And that's the most beautiful thing you can do, until you're able to there is no more yourself. It's just this isness that's ever flowing, and which everything emanates and has this being that's full of love and peace, that joy that we all are. Anyway, thank you for sharing this moment with me. Remember that you are beautiful, and I love you. Bye.